Shalom, everyone. I'll stick my head around. Today, when we were ending the Shabbat meeting with Havdalah, get in the screen for just a moment. I was thinking that I probably should explain some of the words that we're singing. They're common ones, and I'm sure some people are just singing syllables and don't really know what they're singing about. And afterwards, excuse me, Lila came up and asked me if it'd be possible to do something like that. Maybe either do it in a Hebrew lesson here or share something, send out a paper next time we're doing it so that we would have the meaning of the words. And I thought, yeah, so that was my second witness, and what might have just been a flight of fancy that it got forgotten. It's actually going to happen now because of Lila. Thank you. um, and I've got fur on my mouth and it's sticking to me. Kitties. And you know me, it's not going to happen in one lesson because I think of all these little rabbit trails that I want to go down. So it's going to be probably 4 lessons, but at least we don't have to wait for 4 weeks. I will try to get them done fairly swiftly. And so you will have it all for next week, maybe. We'll see. And I'm starting actually not with the Havdalah itself, but with a verse from Ezekiel. This is Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 23. And some of the words that we're going to learn are in this. And there's a glare on that, isn't there? That I think got rid of most of it. Okay. So it says, Ve'et ami yoru, and I didn't try to read this to myself, so I hope I can pronounce it, Bein kodesh lechol, uvein tameh latahor, and this, I think this one through, yod um. Okay, that's an interesting way to, a form of the verb, so it wasn't coming natural at all. Anyway, up here, you should know these. It's at the beginning of a word, so what does it probably mean? It's and. And then this is what? Et. What does it mean? It's the direct object marker. And it does have other significance at other times. But for today, for grammar, we're just going to call it the direct object marker. But there's no verb, right? So this is a sentence where the words are not necessarily in order, which is when this becomes really handy. So, and something's going to happen. And what's it going to happen to? Me. I think we did this word recently, but I can't remember for sure. Is a word for people. There are many synonyms in Hebrew, just like there are in English. And they all have a slightly different meaning. I don't always know the nuances, but I know that one means people, a people, we say goy, and that can mean people too. It more specifically means nations. This is just a people, but it's the same kind of thing, like the Amorites, the Hittites, those are all Ams. Okay, so me. And the yod with the, hear it? Is that right? Oh my gosh. Anyway, the E sound, my apologies. This means my. At the end of a word, that means my. So something's going to happen to my people. And here's what's going to happen. Yoru. And that is from the verb yara. And that means to teach or instruct or to aim an arrow, shoot an arrow. And that's the same place that we get the word Torah, because it's instructions and it's teaching us where to aim, where the line is, where the mark is, and we don't want to go beyond it or fall short of it. That's right where it is. But it's because it has a yod at the beginning and it has a hey on the end. The only really solid letter you have in it is a resh. So you're going to have it turn up in all these different kinds of forms. And that is not actually the yod from the word. This is the yod from the word, but it has been changed to a vav. Vavs and yods mix up a lot. So just if you don't recognize it with the yod, say, what would it look like if it had a vav in it? Maybe that will make some sense to you. And then this is a prefix. And the u on the end means it's they're going to teach. So who's going to teach? Who are they going to teach? My people. And it doesn't say who's doing the teaching. But in the previous verse, it's talking about the priests. This is going to be the priest's job. Other things are written above, and they shall teach my people. Bain. This is not bain like son. This is with the yod in the middle. This means between. And that's a nun sofit. We don't see them all the time. So it's bet yod nun sofit, and it means between. Now in this verse and in the Havdalah, it doesn't happen this way, but often you'll find in the Tanakh where it's saying like between the women and the men. Instead of saying between the women and the men, it'll say between the women and between the men. They'll use the word bain twice. That's just how it's said. But it's not that way today. So between, and this word you should know, Kodesh. Between holy, and we would probably add the in front of it to translate it into English. Between the holy, and here's another prefix, la, and that's to or for, or by maybe even, but it in this case, it's going along with bain. So it's telling you the two things that you're separating. To teach them to know, and the difference is implied between the holy and the common or the profane. And when we talk about profane in English, it usually is really negative. We talk about somebody who uses a lot of profanity. They use a lot of the four-letter words, and their speech is not very edifying. But biblically speaking, when it comes to holiness, profane or common just means not holy. It's not set apart for something special. A profane day of the week is like Tuesday. It's an ordinary day. It's not holy. It is not set apart for anything. It isn't one of the feast days. It's just Tuesday. And so if we call it a profane day or a common day, it doesn't mean something negative. It's just different than holy. So between the holy and the profane or the common. And here the vav is u. And notice this is bain again, but the dog has disappeared. Hebrew likes the sound of an u and a v together. So this is uvain instead of vabain. Uvain, and then here's a new word, tameh, and that means unclean. Between the unclean, la, so, and here's the thing it's compared to, tahor, which means clean. And it took me a while to get those words straight because I hear the word whore and it sounds like it's something unclean. It doesn't sound like this is pure. Unclean and clean. That's what it is. And then here's a word, and the root word, I'm going to rewrite all the root words that I want you to remember in just a minute, but I figured it was faster to write the verse without you watching than it would be, that would save more time. So that's why I did it this way. But this word, the root is yada, and it means to know. And it can be to know a fact, it can be to know a person, and it's used in Genesis when it says, and Adam knew his wife. It's a carnal knowledge, but it doesn't really mean to have sex. That is just the euphemism, the way it's used, kind of like I've talked several times about in the book of Ruth, that she uncovered Boaz's feet. It wasn't his feet that she uncovered, but to make it fit for general audiences. They don't explain the body part. It's implied. And those who know, know. So Adam knew his wife, and a 3-year-old can listen to it and not have any struggle. And later, when they need to know or when they start asking questions about it, then it's fine. But in the meantime, it's a euphemism. So anyway, going back over the verse again, and something's going to happen to my people to know. Oh, I forgot to finish about Yada. I'll get to that in a second. Yoru ben kodesh lechol uvein tameh letahor yod And this form of Yada, you're not going to remember the names. It's a Hifil Jesif, if I've got it right. And Jesif is something we don't even talk about in English. It's a step down from a command or an imperative form. Like if we said, sit down and shut up, that would be a command. And they have words like that. There are commands in Hebrew. But the Jesif is like a step down. It's not quite go and do this, but it's more than a gentle request. It usually gets translated something like, and may it be that, or let it be, or let so-and-so take his journey, this kind of thing. So that's how it gets translated into English. But in Hebrew, it's a different form of the verb that biblical Hebrew people used. Anyway, so that's what that is. To make it known, because it's Hifil and it's reflexive, to make it known to them. And that's where the mem sofit comes in, because that's the verb. And then that means them. So to make it known to them, that's a lot in one word. Or they shall make it known to them, or let it be that they make it known to them. So anyway, that's what this verse is. And excuse me. So I'm going to erase most of this. Pause it if you want to copy it down. And you can look this verse back up for yourself on that Mechon Mamre site that I've mentioned before. You can get all that stuff free there. Okay, so the words that I would like you to remember, and that will be on a review. So this is and it means people. Now you'll notice that this time the mem looks different, because on the verse it was not a mem sofit. It had the yod after it. And so it was a different form of mem. This is the mem sofit. So it's now at the end of a word. But that is something else I want you to know. So it will be, here's a word, and it ends here, and there'll be the dot under the last letter, and then a yod there, and this means my. And this will be a suffix. So there's a word, and then that's the line to show that it's coming at the end, if you can tell what that is. Okay, so here is Yara. And that means to teach or to instruct. And it's where we get Torah. It also means to shoot an arrow, which is kind of interesting, because in modern Hebrew, people don't shoot arrows at each other a whole lot. They do shoot guns. And so you're going to find this used for shooting. Like there's, what is it? I think it's that simple. Yeri, I think that's what it is. But it means a shooting. Like a Columbine shooting. Not positive about that, but it comes from this. And so we have Torah. Oh, I think that would be, it's probably spelled both ways, but I'm going to put this thing in here. Okay, Torah, and that's a weird looking Vav. Okay. Torah. And when I first heard this, the first time I ran into, I think I've been scooting this around, haven't I? Sorry about that. I've been kicking it with my foot. Um, the first time I heard somebody talk about this word, I'm trying to think what that guy's name was. Several of you were there. A guy from Israel who talked at South Mountain Church. Anyway, he said that Torah came from the word yara, which means to shoot an arrow, and he had those words up there, and I thought, no, it doesn't. Because in English, that doesn't happen. And of course, I knew nothing about Hebrew, and yet I was an expert, and I thought, well, no, he's not right. Isn't it amazing the little bit of knowledge people have, and then we think we know so much, and I'm always looking back and groaning. Anyway, in English, we don't change the first letter. We might add a prefix like the word send. If I'm the sender of something, it would be a suffix, the on the end of send, but we wouldn't change the first letter. It wouldn't be that I sent the letter, so that makes me a rent or a tent or something like that. It would still be sent. And I was going to resend it. Okay, I'm resending it to you right now. I just hit the button. Re is the prefix. Ing is the suffix. We wouldn't put it trendu or something like that. I mean, this was just too foreign to me, and I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. But anyway, that does mean to teach, to instruct, or to shoot or aim an arrow. Torah, therefore, means instructions or teachings. Does not mean law. There are other words that could mean law, but Torah isn't one of them. But it does get used that way. And so then the word for teacher is more. Now, I know you've heard this a lot of times in Shabbat meetings. This O sound here and the A there, that is going to be a construct form, and it means one who. So, except normally it's plural. Wonder why it isn't. Anyway, but you're going to have a plural one of these when we get back to the song for Havdalah itself. So keep that in mind. The O-A, those two sounds, it either means the ing form, ing, the participle, or it means the one who. And so in this case, the more is the one who instructs or teaches. Another word that I want you to remember is Beit. Is that like that? Yes, okay. With the Nun Sofit, because it's the last letter. Oh, I'm getting messages. Okay, anyway, so Beit means between. And like I said before, interestingly, in the Havdalah song and in this verse, it's not there, but frequently what you'll find is Beit one thing and Beit the other. So they put between in twice to make it grammatical. And then we have the my at the end. Here's a prefix. And I'm not sure how many of these we've actually done since we restarted this. I know I've gone over them in Shabbat class before, but this is new and I kind of forget which ones I did the last few weeks. Anyway, this is la, and it's a preposition, and it means like, it can be toward, it can be to, it can be for. And in this case, I don't even, on the verse, I don't even know how to translate it. Just know that it's the other Beit, it's the thing you're comparing. And just to remind you, what if I had it like this? It now says la, not la. What does this mean? When you have the ah sound with a prefix. It means for the, or to the, or in behalf of the. This is a combination of the ha and the la. And you put them together and you get the lamed to show what this part of it is, but the ah goes with the ha. And so you know that that is to the or for the. And it's always hard to explain a preposition in any language. I mean, it's even hard to learn them in English, isn't it? To understand what a preposition is when you're a kid. And then finally, translating one language into another, English to Spanish, French to Portuguese. You know, I mean, the prepositions, especially the little ones, the to, by, for, when, you know, those things get all messed up. Okay, so then we have, I'm going to move this so I can get all the words on there, I think. Where am I going to put la? I could do it this way. I could fit two prefixes or two things here on the same line. This is my, and this pen doesn't like to write that long. And then we have la, which comes at the beginning. E goes at the end. La goes at the beginning of a word. Oh, and this means everything. Just recognize it as a prefix. Okay, so then we have tame. That's not a. The last week I've kind of like forgotten how to write. I can't write a tet anymore. I had my way of doing it, and now it's not working. Okay. So, tame or tahor? Which one I was going to do first? Tame. Okay. And this. Okay. Nope. Doesn't have that second one. Okay. Tame. And that means unclean. And then tahor, kind of did it that time. Okay. Tahor means clean. So in my mind, I always have to reverse the words because I want to say tame means clean and tahor means unclean. But that's backwards. Okay, and yada, this is why I'm not going to do all of it in 1 week. Because there are so many words once I got to looking at it to learn. And I really like that verse, that Ezekiel verse. And I don't really want to just, this is dying on me. I don't really want to just talk down another religion, especially one that was kind of my mom. And you don't want to find fault with your mother, your father. But just reading between the lines. If you believe in something called an Aaronic priesthood that is on the earth currently, your job is not to pass a sacrament and make sure people are doing their home teaching. Your job is to know and then teach the rest of God's people the difference between holy and profane and clean and unclean. You have to know it first, live by it first, and then you can go out and teach it. Okay, so yada. Okay. You can, yeah, this is going to show. Okay, so that's supposed to be a vav, not a yod. A yod, not a vav. Okay. Ya. Da. And that means to know. Probably should have been using this pen all along. Okay. Okay. And then I was just going to show this. I don't know. I might quiz you on this, but let's just do it. So you at least know what this is. And it's hard to write straight down this low. Okay. So that, yeah, you can still see it. Him. And this means they or them. And it's masculine. If it has a mem with it, it's masculine. The feminine counterpart will have a noon. So this is him, and it can mean they or them just masculine, or they or them universal. It can be both genders. And so on the end, on a suffix, I'll put this here in case somebody says, wait, what was that word? They or them. And forgive my slanted writing here. Okay. And so then at the end of a word, sometimes they'll just put the there. And here, oh, it's not on there anymore, but it had the kibbutz under it to make the sound. And sometimes it'll have a different sound. Usually, actually, it's going to be like an ah. So it'll be but that means them, and it's at the end of a word, kind of like a direct object. I guess it is a direct object, another way to do it, using a pronoun, because you wouldn't have et him, but you might put just the mem at the end. So when you saw that yad that means to cause them to know, and the them is part of it. That's the suffix there. Okay, so pause this and take a minute, if you haven't already, to write these down, whatever your way is of memorizing vocabulary. Oh, let's see. I don't have all the... Okay, I think you can see all of it now. Whatever your way of memorizing vocabulary is, and again, I'll mention I have gobs of flashcards. If you would like to start using them, then I'll be happy to bring some. I have a lot. I've been trying to start learning a couple of languages. Trying to keep 2 or 3 going is really a bad idea, and I get really confused, but I want to learn French to talk to my granddaughter. And many years ago, several of my sons were learning Japanese, and so Ishmael, who was doing really well with it, I had him teach homeschool some Japanese, and I don't remember the letters, so I said I was going to go back over them. So I have now Japanese and French flashcards too. And sometimes I'm trying to say something and I can think of it in 2 languages, but not the 3rd one. Okay, so anyway, if you're using flashcards, write them down on those. I'll be happy to get you some, or just write them in a notebook or whatever. If some of these, I already know that word, don't worry about it, but just, I want to add to things without having to explain the vocabulary every time. So anyway, I guess that's it, and then I'll come back and do a review, and then we'll do add on more words for the Havdalah the next time. So shalom, everyone. Have a great week.